Slayer and Stubborn were doing their patrol of the base. They ran, darting through the massive blue trunk trees, the silent canopy waving in the wind overhead. The two Vitalians' claws dug into the mushy soil as they sped through the jungle. Slayer caught motion up ahead and abruptly stopped, flashing alert colors on his back. Stubborn stopped abruptly behind him. "What is it?" she flashed. "Unknown. No new smells. Something moved. Don't see it now." She looked, eyeing the tall trees and shorter yellowish bushes. "Wind? Moved wrong." She flashed colors into her chest eye sensor, broadcasting. "Anyone in Sector 18? Callie responded. "No, just you two. There a situation?" "Potential movement. Unknown currently." "Sending backup just as a precaution," Callie said. Slayer and Stubborn waited motionless, watching the jungle when they heard Scribbler Knights and Rockborn attempt to approach stealthily. Rockborn spotted them easily enough with his Muttley spectrum-sensitive eyes. As he walked over, Stalker saw something move again in the distance and flashed colors. "Everyone halt." Rockborn stopped, putting up his hand to signal all halt. "What is it?" Slayer watched. The motion was definitely not wind-based. It was over near a clump of trees. He moved his backworms to point at the mass of foliage. "There. Unsure. Caution." Rockborn motioned his hands for a circle and capture maneuver. The Scribbler Knight spoke over comms, coordinating the task, and started slowly moving around. Rockborn approached slowly from the front as everyone else circled. He got up to the bush and paused. 3 of his troops were on the other side of it. He poked his bio-rifle in and stirred the filled leaves. Nothing jumped out. Rockborn turned and looked back at Slayer. He typed on his inner chest device. "Nothing. Same as last time." Slayer moved his head flaps with agitation. He flashed a reply. "I need to speak with the grape juice and air. This world is affecting me." Rockborn was about to type a confirmation when the bush twitched beside him. He jerked back and aimed the rifle quickly. "Delay that. This bush did just move." Callie, watching through Scribbler cameras, chimed in. "I saw it. Replaying. It's like the plant twitched. Grape Juice is requesting you take a cutting and bring it in. She wants samples." Rockborn pulled a sharp scale out from his shoulder-grown armor. With a quick strike, he cut a limb off the plant and waved over a Scribbler. The knight approached and opened its chest storage chamber. Rockborn put the sample in. "Run that back to the lab. Everyone else, let's continue scouting. Josiah was piloting the survey flyer over the oceans. He kept a good clearance away from the surface, in case any of those giant shadows underneath decided to breach." Alicia hung out on the gunner rig, aiming the chain gun down toward the endless sea. "Charges, any signs of anything?" Alicia shook her head. "Same as always. Nothing. Not even a shadow." Crackletooth sat with Enid, monitoring the scanners. He pointed over at a dot projected on the holodesk. "There. That looks like a gene forge." He touched his comm, changing over to the global channel. "Crackletooth, calling Habitus. This is Veritas of Immerwald. Go ahead, Crackletooth." "Hey, Veritas. We are nearing the Geniforge, plan still a go. Confirmed. You are on visuals. I am flexing into the flyer now. You are prime feed. Broadcasting now. Approach is approved." Crackletooth raised his right hands for Josiah to see in the mirror. "Pilot, you are clear for approach." Josiah nodded slightly. "Taking us in." They neared the tower. It was leaning and half submerged. Large holes were apparent in the sides of it, with obvious rust and decay. Growing out of the holes were numerous types of trees and vines. Large vines streamed down the outer walls and into the ocean below. Crackletooth looked over the monitors. "Veritas, you reading anything?" "Negligible. Power signatures are present, but very low. Reactor is operating near 1%. No weapons or movement detected." Josiah circled around the roof. He pointed down at the flat peak. "Think it will hold us?" Veritas ran a scan survey using the onboard sensors. "Main load-bearing pillars are showing intact. It was built to last and appears to be stable. I give my approval for landing attempt. Callie spoke over the channel. I give my consent. Keep grav plating at hover. Don't risk a full landing. Understood. All hands get ready. Mission is a go. Josiah approached the roof and slowly lowered the flyer. Josiah hovered in place as Michael, Enid, 2 Infinigan Guard, and Al-Letapin, a Scribbler Knight, jumped off the flyer. Al-Letapin walked toward a breach in the wall and stopped. He opened up a compartment in his side, and a hollow orb flew out and began to emit a golden light. The mission Veritas appeared standing next to the crew. Above Josiah hovered higher, and remaneuvered the craft so as to give Alicia line of sight for her chain gun. Michael and Enid led the way in. Enid motioned, and the 2 Infinigan took up placements near the door. Michael moved in and pulled a large blade of his hip and cut his way through the vines into the inside. The group stepped in. Enid sidestepped a hole in the floor and motioned at it for everyone to step around it. Michael kept going farther into the building, his helmet light illuminating his path. A rusted hulk of a totem laid in the corner, and he paused. He poked it with his toe as Enid stepped up beside him. She looked at it. Long gone. Don't worry about it. He shone his light on its chest, highlighting a large hole blown in it. I'm worried about whatever did that. She stepped past him, looking down the hall with her own helm light. She looked back at him for a moment. We've got the orbital scans. There aren't any Gallic signs. They left. He nodded and followed. Veritas's glow lit up the middle of the party and paused at the totem, scanning. Al-Letapin stepped up beside the AI. Can you pull anything from it? Veritas shook its holographic head. No, but I am getting a reading of something powered up several floors down. We may have luck there. Al-Letapin pulled up the rendering file Veritas was constructing and disseminated it through the party. Enid looked down at the file ping on her wrist pad. She looked back over the group and nodded at the hologram down the hall. She turned down a side hall, heading to the stairs. The group had descended 3 floors before reaching the wrecked womb room. Parts of the floor lacking vine cover crunched as they stepped on the shattered glass. Michael looked over the room, revealing root masses formed in the cracks and tiny filaments hanging down across the room like a curtain. He motioned toward the corner. The glowing Veritas walked across the room silently, stopping a small terminal in the wall. Enid, rifle raised, stepped towards Veritas, her steps echoing each crunch across the room. She watched as Veritas cast off the hologram and lowered the orb to the terminal, extending cords into it. A moment passed, and the terminal lit up with glyphs. She looked it over. What are you getting? Is that normal? Veritas lit up again next to her. There is nothing normal about alien worlds. But yes, it is understandable. I'm transmitting the data stream to the flyer and across the network. Researchers back at base are deciphering it as we speak. She looked around the room. Any kind of records? Was it a tsunami or something? Looking now. Veritas was working on several projects in the newly coined Immerwald system. He had scanned the planet, showing a vast network of underwater forests, island chains covered in forests, a small continent with a large inland desert, with the forest growing in stripes across it, and green forest-covered mountains. After seeing all the botanical life on the planet, a Highlung refugee had commented on a video feed with the potential name. It stuck, and Veritas had allayed himself to the world. His box spider collection had amassed itself into several large colonies on the other rocky worlds and 7 moons. He had constructed numerous relay satellites to control them, the starts of mining platforms, and had moved several asteroids close enough to the orbital to facilitate its numerous planned improvements. On top of mapping, construction, and mission operations, Veritas was monitoring safety of the habitats and the life systems of the orbital. Luckily, everything had remained nominal. The surface had proven peaceful, and a preliminary farm for the SFP in orbit had helped stabilize the life support systems even further. The world was showing to be a potential Garden of Eden until he started connecting dots in the newly acquired logs. Callie was looking over the biocharts with grape juice in the female preserver's lab. Oh, look. This thing looks like a gree, doesn't it? Grape juice bobbed and focused a third of herself to the screen. Yes, actually. It has all the DNA markers of them, albeit minus several thousand generations of drift. Yes, that is definitely a gree. Callie laughed. Nice. We have it confirmed. This is their origin world. And we have it confirmed they are an engineered race. We have a who yet? Callie asked. Nothing definitive other than totem involvement. Veritas appeared in the lab, casting his glow across the tables. I've looked through the logs. There is something interesting here, and a potential threat. Callie stared at him. The things in the ocean? He lolled his head back and forth. Well, yes and no. He changed his holographic form into a gree. From the log, this planet was an icy rock when the Genoforge landed. Callie nodded. Nice. We know it landed then. So it's some sort of ship then. I figured it had been built. The Vitalian Genoforge lacked the original records of its formation, but this one clearly shows landing sequence logs. It is far younger, and I'm able to track through its thought processes in terraforming this world. Veritas changed into a holographic planet. First, it warmed it up cold extremophiles that create greenhouse gases. One such species was the forerunners of the gree. Their capabilities to manipulate stones, ores, and metals were paramount for mineral extraction for other life forms. Those forerunners were modified with each iteration, eventually becoming moderately sentient, and thus the gree we know. The hologram shifted through several life forms, and then showed a glowing black orb with threads. With the build-up new animals, the tried and true method of creating aggressive creatures proliferated, and with that proliferation of carnivores came a proliferation of rotting corpses. Veritas shifted and moved around the lab, turning into a mycelium-like structure growing around the room. With the corpses came life forms capable of breaking them down into usable compounds. Again, through iterations, those fungal-like forms were modified and became the Gallic. Callie looked at Grape Juice and then back at Veritas. Well, that makes sense. So we have confirmation that both species originated on this world. So there are Gallic still left here. Veritas reappeared in his humanoid form. Only the ones we brought. The threat is neither Gallic or gree. The Genoforge algorithm plays with what works and modifies it repeatedly to fit the world better, a kind of forced evolution. Grape Juice scrolled through the life forms, fully intrigued. Which one is it? Which one is the concern? Veritas walked over to her datapad and touched. A seed came to view. Adding intelligence to the life able to break down rocks proved advantageous, as did adding it to the decomposers. It did the next logical thing and gave the thought threading to a plant-like species. Callie took a step back and looked out the window. She watched as the trees swayed silently in the wind. So the plants are alive? Like, animated alive? Veritas displayed several graphs in the air. Note the population charts. Gree, stable for several thousands of years. A dip as the Gallic arrived, and then leveled off, stable. The two species managed to coexist for several millennia, and then this species was spewed out from the machine. Callie touched her mouth as she watched the data points of the millions of species on the planet plummet, and then the data stopped. She pointed. Why did it stop? Veritas looked over at her. The data ceased to be recorded when the Genoforge was destroyed. The Gallic and gree were nearly wiped out. I can only surmise they figured out how to escape the planet, and did so. Callie stared back out the window. Why hasn't it killed us yet? Holy shit, we have to leave. Grape Juice was busy looking over the anomalous species DNA. She paused and raised one of her three hands. I don't think it killed anything. Well, it didn't wipe anything out. Veritas blinked for a moment as he went over her file movements. I see it. You're right. Callie walked over to the terminal beside her friend. What? What are you two seeing? Grape Juice pulled up sequences, pointing. The species DNA markers are in every species we have seen out there. The bacteria, the trees, bushes, oceanic algae, everything is overlaid with it. Callie raised her hand in question. And? Veritas pulled up sample files and displayed them for Grape Juice. Grape juice highlighted the diagrams. Everything alive on this planet has bits of this stuff in it, but they are not it. We found several worm-like creatures in the soil. They had threads in them that matched this species. I do not think the system this species was designed to manipulate was just plants. Callie started piecing it together. So what? It manipulates worms and trees? Veritas watched through all the ground-side cameras, monitoring all the ground forces deployed. He turned his focus back to the hologram in the room with Callie. I think you should pull everyone back in, and we should get off this planet very quickly. It clicked for Callie. Our guys, they are out there, our people. They could be taken over, consumed by this thing. What are we looking at? Grape juice started running protein sequences and structural simulations. Unsure. The present DNA is far mutated from the original, very organized and ornate. I'm not entirely sure what it does. She looked over at the AI with all three eyes. I do agree we should leave before we find out, though. Callie looked back out, thinking. What if we are infected? Is it an infection? What if we spread it? Grape juice shrunk shorter on her stool. We can lift off and stay under Veritas's quarantine. He would be immune to it. You should issue a callback now. Callie touched her comm and spoke planet-wide. I need all-away teams and ground personnel to report back to Habitas promptly. We have identified a new threat. Activate biohazard protocols and hurry back safely. Cadence answered back on the channel. What are we looking out for? We infected? What should we be expecting? It is an unknown planet-wide threat. We do not know its capabilities, just its potential. Callie responded. And what is that potential? Cadence said. Callie stood staring out the window watching as QRF Reddy and Finnegan ran up the gangplank into the outpost, the trees shifting silently in a breeze that wasn't there. Extinction-level events. Hello. You are Admiral Frith? The older human nodded. Huh? What's up, Tiger? The preserver focused all three eyes on him. The owner of this bar has recommended me to find you. Would you like to be my human? Frith laughed and chugged the last bit of his beer. He sat up straighter and looked over the creature. You don't own humans, bud. There have been wars over this. It's insulting. The striped preserver looked over the human and typed a note on his chest device. Understood and noted. I was told I needed to get a human. I am apparently asking this wrong. Frith pushed out a stool with his foot. Climb up. You want a drink? Frith waved over the new barkeep, a grazer from the farming herds on Craddock Prime. Hey, Chatnu, I'll have another, and whatever my friend Tiger here wants. Chatnu looked at the preserver. What would you like? The preserver eyed the grazer. Do you have S-Oil slimes? No. Gawk. Chatnu looked down at his data slate. Yes, we actually have that. No one has ever ordered it. I use it for wiping down my butcher blocks. You like that? The young preserver bobbed its torso slightly. Yes, it is protein-rich, adequate in hydration, and helps facilitate lubrication production. If I had known you had it in stock, I would have visited prior. Chutnu gibbered. I'll go get you guys your drinks. Frith smiled. Thanks, bud. He turned to his new friend. So, you want help from a human? I was told I needed a human. I did not understand completely then, nor do I now. Frith sat for a moment. All right, tell me what parts do you understand? Frith ran his right hand through his short hair as he leaned back. The preserver looked over the human with all three eyes, assessing. The patriarch preserver of this station owes his success to pack bonding with the original human of Twain. He has stated this several times. I wish to be successful and make my own zoo. He recommends I get my own human to assist me. Frith smiled as Chutnu arrived with the drinks. Thanks, bud. He flicked a couple clams across to the barkeep, and then turned back to the preserver in front of him. You think Sam is the preserver's human? He said, and took a drink of the fresh beer. Yes. The preserver helped him, and in so doing laid a claim of ownership. They have been in an assist cycle ever since. Assist cycle. Frith sat the beer down, sloshing it a bit. I like that. In my species, we call that being a friend, less robotic, more human-sounding. My kind is neither robotic or human, so I will continue as such, referring to it as an assist cycle. I wish to assist you, and I wish for you to assist me. Is it possible to negotiate terms for starting such a cycle? Look, I'm loyal to my ship and my crew. I'm only on the station sporadically. I come in here, get some drinks, chase up some tail, and I go back out on patrol. I don't have much time to do whatever it is you do. If you are unable to assist me, do you potentially know of any others who could? You gotta tell me what you need help with. I don't know who would be suited. You know? The young preserver lifted the gawk to its fluctuating mouth parts and drank some. It set it down, sealing its mouth back shut. It replied through his chest device. I shall tell you. Trust is necessary to improve relations. The preserver has been hired to help the Craddock find a way to reproduce without having to sacrifice themselves to their young. I've been tasked with accomplishing this for him, and in so doing I have taken the deal from him. It is now my deal, and I shall complete it to finance my own zoo. I need help with this. Frith thought it over as he subconsciously pulled an acrylic coin from his pocket and started flipping it across his fingers. That sounds like a lot of trouble. You're going behind your own father's back, stealing from him, potentially becoming a competitor. Sounds messy. I prefer the term patriarch. We do not have familial bonds as you do. The situation present on this station is actually an anomaly for my species. The only reason my hatchmates and I were not devoured were due to mandates made by your Sam. I do agree. This deal is trouble, but it is a way for me to become independent. In order for me to keep living, it is a step I must take. Frith spun the plastic coin on the table, looking at the hair encased inside. Tell you what, I'm not getting any younger and I need to find a way to settle down. This job have any pay? The preserver typed on its chest, running numbers. I do not know how much you want for compensation. I also do not know how you could help. You said you were devoted to your ship. Why the turn of thought? Frith took another drink and slammed his hand down on the spinning coin. He lifted it back up and put it clearly in the preserver's fields of view. See those strands of hair inside? He looked into the coin with all three eyes. Yes, I lost my daughter years ago. She made me smile all the time. Frith started tearing up. A gene plague someone engineered in their basement spread through the colony. Took out the kids. My wife and I, we survived, but our marriage didn't. You cloned Sam, made that damn clone right? I didn't. That was the patriarch. Frith looked down at the flat coin. Well, you know how right? You could do it. With the new facility I am constructing, it would not be an issue. The issue would be the legislation against unregistered cloning. I thought humans were against such practices. Frith nodded. Most humans are. Most humans have family members killed by false men. I guess that is one of the reasons I never wanted to admit that I came here. He lifted up the coin, staring at the brown strands encased inside. I heard of Dam, and the tower and a flicker of hope crossed my mind. I might could hold my baby girl again. Frith looked across at the preserver. So, Tiger, I'll help you if you help me. Tiger, large predatory earth creature. I'll allow it. Yes, your request is amenable. I will risk myself against the rules of the station in the recreation of your daughter, if you will risk yourself helping me create my own facility against the repercussions of my patriarch. Frith slipped the coin into his vest pocket with his left hand and held out his right. Tiger took the hand with one of his, and the two shook. Sam stood on the small walkway lining the massive water tank, looking out over the fabricated sea. Zamudan's large eye crested out of the water and was looking at him. You understand what I am wanting? Sam asked. Zamudan shifted in the water, turning up a large flipper. I do. I agree with the idea. It is sound. It would also be good to have such a large reservoir of water stored. Do you think it will interfere with the Star Angels? We do not wish to risk their living situation. Their species is rare and well-loved. Several of my clan leaders are risking the coming, solely to see them. Sam shrugged. I have no idea. You and yours are the engineers. I'm hoping you could tell me. Zamudin changed focus over toward the bulkhead doors as they opened. Ah, good. His timing is beautiful. Sam looked at the door and watched as the preserver cantered in, spiraling through the doorway with a large floating aquarium in tow behind him. Sam stepped closer to look inside. Tentacle-covered orbs floated in the liquid. Sam looked over the aquarium at the preserver. What are these? Zamudin answered from the water. The preserver's capabilities are far more efficient than our own, and we hired him to make some of our stabilizer species. We will be needing them for our Vitalia contract. Sam nodded knowingly at the two. All right, makes sense. They any risk? The preserver looked at him with one eye. No. They are a niche species. They clean and reproduce in aquatic settings. They help keep blooms in check, facilitating the survival of larger species. Nice, Sam said. Zamudin looked at the preserver. We have a question for you. We are wanting to stockpile water for the station on the outer hull. Do you think this will interfere with the Star Angels? The preserver started dumping the orb creatures into the water, focusing on the two with two of his 3 eyes. If we leave adequate space around their nest, and leave several places open for future nests, no. The easy access to water will actually promote their nesting. My trackers are showing they jump deep into the rim to an ice moon for that sole purpose. Sam smiled. Good. It is settled then. New contract? Zamudin blinked slowly and lifted a tendril to touch Sam's outstretched fist. Contract confirmed. I will start designing the ice fields. Sam waved at the two and stepped toward the bulkhead. Thank you, both of you. The preserver lifted a hand, miming the human. Thank you, Sam. The preserver looked at Zamudin after he had left. What are we thanking each other for? You helped us plan out another layer of shielding and storage. He was just being polite in his way. The preserver focused all eyes on the last of the orbs clinging to the tank. Is it just my thought processes, or are humans weird? They are, and he is especially. My family is grateful for it. Zamudin shifted and disappeared into the dark water to tend to the new additions of the ecosystem, led the pack as they rode through the fog. He sat atop the eldest of the litter, Sir Cole. Behind him rode Ta'an-Ah on Lady Felice, and Setchode on Sir Topper. The 3 led the tribe and the tray of elders safely to the door of the accused. Onfo lifted his spear up for all to see, and the pack stopped. A rabbit rat was feeding on a squishy up ahead. He waved the spear in a circle and his tribe split. The hunters grouped up around their cat riders, and the 3 groups surrounded the rabbit rat. Onfo, on his mount, leapt in first. Sir Cole struck with ferocious might, slapping the wrinkly monster to the mushy ground. The tribe attacked in unison, striking with swords and spears, slaying the rabbit rat. The scribblers of the mist feasted for several hours before they continued their trek through the great halls. They carried on, stopping only to relieve themselves at designated small holes, taking turns watching for predators. After many long hours, the tribe arrived at the door. The tray of elders lifted up, and the oldest reached out and touched the chime sensor. A ring echoed loudly inside. Monty yawned as he answered the door. He was startled awake as he saw the tray of tiny creatures staring at him. His eyes widened even wider as he looked down at the horde surrounding the 3 pink and black cats. He did a double take as he noticed the cats each had a rider on their back. Can I help you? The oldest pointed through the door at Monty's newly acquired art. Monty looked over his shoulder at the large piece of metal hanging on his wall, covered in circles and geometric patterns. He looked back and realized he was now surrounded, the cats circling him. The tray lifted up in front of Monty's face. Look, I don't want any trouble, please. I don't taste good. I'm fatty and full of oxidants. The oldest, standing on the tray an inch from Monty's nose, typed into the data terminal. Human, you are now recorded having stolen our ancestral records. You are to wait here, with us, until the authorities arrive. Monty kept his hand still and tried not to flinch. Look, I haven't stolen anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Anfo pointed at the medal hanging on the wall and touched his communicator. You display our writings in plain sight. We have a generation already growing unimprinted. You have cursed our people. You will pay for this, human. Monty looked where he pointed. Whoa, I didn't know. I bought it down in the trade ring. He told me he made it. I had no idea it was yours. Monty looked around at the tribe. Look, I'm sorry. I don't need trouble or the law. If it is yours, I believe you. Truthfully, I was trying to figure out how the guy made it. He didn't seem smart enough to program a lathe to do that. Take it back. I'm sorry. Anfo struck Monty in the heel. Monty fell to his knee. Fool human. We have no way to move the ancestral records. Even if we do hire workers to move it back, the young would be too old to imprint upon arrival back home. You have damned our tribe to relearning. Monty held the pinprick on his heel and looked at it to see dots of blood. He looked at the small, armored scribbler. He then looked out across the tribe. Are these troops your young ones? Anfo raised his spear up again to strike. Wait. Monty waved his hand slowly. Seriously, are they here? The elders lowered down to look at Monty's face. The oldest typed again. Our young are among us, yes. You wish to try to squash us? It will be foolish of you to try human. We have felled beasts your size before. We can again. Monty pointed at the art on his wall. What do you need to do this imprinting? The oldest typed again. The young need to study the ancestral records. And what do they have to do to study? The oldest looked at the other elders and then back at the human. It punched in another answer. Are you dumb, human? Do your kind not study? They must sit, look, and learn. We will teach them the imprint. Monty looked around at the tribe and then up at the elders. You guys want to come in? I've got food and drink. If you start now, can you do the imprint? The oldest looked around at his tribe. Anfo looked up from Sir Cole and shook the spear in confirmation. The oldest noted the numerous confirmations and typed again. You will share your home with our tribe? Monty nodded. Yes, of course. I have caused an error. Let me write it. The oldest raised its hands and the tribe entered the apartment.